Index cards on your tables. So if there's something that maybe you want an answer to but don't want to ask us tonight or don't have time to ask us tonight, please write it down with your name, your phone number, or email address, and we get back to you. And I will personally get back to you with an answer for you. Okay? So if that's for anything tonight that you don't want to ask out loud, or you don't have time to. All right? So thank you all for coming. How's the food? Yeah, not bad. It's free, so you really can't complain too much.
I'd go buy.
But actually, what's that?
I'd go buy this.
Yeah, no, it's actually very good. And Miguel does a great job, and he's in the back. How about I run under the applause for Miguel? And his son. And his son is helping too. There he is. Yeah. He's always helping out. Also, just so you know, you actually came from the city of Temple City, so we don't have to for that. You don't have to clap, just so you know. You came from the city. So.
Hey, what do you mean they don't have to clap?
Or you can clap. Yeah, okay, we got Tom here. Tom's one of our council members, so he's saying what clap, so you clap. Very good, very good. Okay, I'll make some introductions in just a minute, but I want to go over a couple of housekeeping things first. Just so everybody knows, if you need to use the restroom, we have both men and women right over here, where the exit sign is, and they're both open and nice wrong. Okay? For the kids, now this is for the little kids, not the big kids. We have child care in this room over here. These two lovely ladies will be watching the kids. They work with the city, so you don't have to worry about it. And I think they're working on getting a TV in here, so hopefully we'll get that in the next 10 or 15 minutes and show some type of kid show. So if you guys want to listen to the kids, you want to go back, you can. If the kids want to stay here, that's fine too, either way. Okay? It makes no difference. Okay, so I think that's just about everything. The talk is pretty sort of all the way up until 8 o'clock. So if you decide you want more, there's plenty of food. Help yourself. Yes, sir.
Child care will be out the door to the left, restroom on the left. So we're going to set up in there.
Okay, you got a TV in there. Okay. All right, so remove the child care room out the store to the left. We can have the girls, escort you back if you want to bring your kids back so you can actually see the room, see where they're going to be, and you'll know where to get them afterward as well. Okay? So that's out the store to the left. And that means the next door, you're going to make a left?
Walk the store, make a left, and the first door on the left.
Okay, so left and left. All right? And if you need help, just let us know. We'll take care of you. And while we're going through everything tonight, too, if you got questions, feel free to raise your hands. However, if we start going off the subject or we're running out of time, we'll keep moving forward because we do have a lot of material to cover. And then we'll hopefully at the end answer your question for you. Okay? So don't be too disappointed. We're going to get to the right way. Okay, so introductions. Mike Baker. Maybe some of you know Mike Baker. Mike, yeah, you do? Yeah? Is that a good thing? No, it's not. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, Mike is a great guy. He's our traffic guy. Okay? So some of you may have gotten a ticket from Mike in the past. All right? But he's just doing his job. And honestly, the reason we get tickets isn't just for the money. Okay? Everybody thinks it's all about the money. Really, it's all about, the main two reasons are safety. Okay? Because honestly, when you out there writing tickets, unfortunately, you can't give people warnings all the time and take them at their word that they're going to obey and not run into the stop sign or a red light, right? So we have to enforce, okay? And by enforcing, what happens is we actually force people to see it. Because what happens when we're driving down the street in black and white, and you're driving down the street, right? And maybe you're driving too fast, and you don't have your seatbelt on. Or how many of you use your cell phone when you're driving? Come on. I'm not going to write you a ticket. We got one on this person in the road. Come on. Anybody else? Yeah? A few. Okay, good. But what happens usually when you see us?
I use a Bluetooth.
Bluetooth. Okay, very good. Very good. I want the illegal activity, though. I don't want the honest people. I want No, that's good. But basically what happens is you see us, unless you're not paying attention, which happens too, sometimes people right up on you, you're still talking to the phone, you know how to go all the time, right? But honestly, usually what happens is you slow down, you'll make sure you make that complete stop, right? Okay? So by seeing us out there writing somebody a ticket, you think, I don't want it. Okay? And in the process, what that does is it cuts down on traffic collisions because people are paying more attention. And it does. I mean, there are studies that prove that it actually cuts down on collisions. So it's really about making you aware and keeping you safe. Okay? Now, there is revenue. There isn't much. Usually the courts get most of the revenue, believe it or not. The city does get a share, but we don't have a quota, and we're not out to kill you, and we're not out to hit you. Okay? You believe me? Yeah, it's just not a simple belief, so I just be tough tonight. Okay, so anyhow, we'll talk more about that. We're going to give Mike a few minutes in just a little bit to talk about what he does and then answer any questions you might have. Okay? Ron Miranda, our team sergeant, and he may jump in here and offer some input for us as well. And then we have one other member on our team, Kirk Cardella, who's actually on vacation. He actually grew up in the city, so some of you actually may know Kirk, may know his family. I know we have the gentleman over here knows his dad. So, and then we have Chan from the city, Brian from the city, Martin over here, Ledwitz. He's actually my main volunteer guy, and he's going to get up and talk for a few minutes, kind of tell you what he does and what we're looking for on the volunteer side. And then we have some city folks here. We have Tom Chavez, one of our council members. We usually get one or two council members in the evening. And his wife, Jane. So you guys can raise your hands if you want. Thank you. And then Jose Polito, our city manager. He's here as well. And I point them out really because I want you to know and realize that our city council we have, they actually care. They're coming to these meetings. They've done a number of things to change things here in town. Now, I grew up in Temple City. I grew up in this town. I went to Temple City High School for a short time. I moved away from my folks to Forest and then I came back. My folks live in the town. My grandma's been here over 50 years and she's 95. 95 years old. We just celebrated her 95th birthday in July. So I've got a lot at stake. I've got a lot of interest in the city and I can care about the city. And I will tell you this, with Jose here, with Tom here, I don't care enough to tell you something that's not true. I've been on this team, especially on the team, I'll tell you about it in just a minute, just a little bit about what we do for over 11 years now, okay? And the way the council members used to be, and I was friends with all of them, there was in-house fighting all the time. Nothing got done. Las Tunas kind of fell apart, right? Well, the city council we had the last couple of years, maybe more, they all work together. They all get along. And if you go to the council meetings and you watch the voting, they're always on the same page. And maybe you have one that might feel one way about something. But for the most part, they genuinely care. They're not messing around, and they want to make some changes. And one of those changes they did was they hired Jose. And he's done a great job. And I'm not telling you, I don't have to tell you that. I'm not worried about losing my job. We've had a lot of changes going on in the city. They're talking about changing the codes. I don't even know what's going on in the road now, too. I know there's construction going on. And that hasn't been going on for years. You know? A lot of great changes. Brian's going to address some of those things. He's going to spend a lot of time talking about that. And with that said, actually, one more introduction. Captain E. may come. He's our captain at the station. He's the one that we answer to. He's always out for these things, so I know his time is coming. So if he comes, I may stop on the road. You may want to say a couple words, okay? I think I've got everybody that I want to introduce. We want to thank St. Louis Church. There's no one from St. Louis. Anybody parishioners here at the church? Okay, good. Okay, now I'm Catholic. I go to the Angels. Okay, and I'm not trying to push religion on anybody. Just, everyone's got their own beliefs, and that's great. And maybe you don't believe, that's fine too. But for those Catholics, please say a prayer that the hot weather's going to cool down some, because I don't know about you, but I still need. I'm actually tired. So anyway, all right, that's it about that. Okay, I want to go over just a little bit about what we do and just kind of some of our duties, and then I'm going to go over the package with you and explain what the changes are that we've made over the last almost year now. Okay? All right. So basically, you've got. Well, we're going to get another deputy on the team as well. So there's actually 3 deputies plus Mike Baker. So there's 4 of us, but Mike actually handles the traffic side. We do all the other stuff. But Mike does help us with the number of events. I should say that. And activities. Okay? We're responsible for anything involving Temple City. Okay? Quality of life issues. You've got a problem with your neighbor about whatever it is. A barking dog. Maybe you're upset about maybe plants. Overgrown vegetation. Whatever it is. We're going to get involved, okay? Because we don't answer the calls that your patrol deputies do. We have deputies that handle the report calls and the calls for service, but we don't do that. We're here for you more than just the routine stuff, okay? Over and above. We handle search warrants, investigations. We do. We help in narcotics and search warrants. We make any type of arrest, whether it's juvenile or not. We're involved in schools, community events. You'll see us at the Camellia Festival, St. Luke's Festival. We do the area watch, which is what I just took on back in August, September of last year. My partner, Rich Soto, used to do it, and he left. And so now I've taken it over. We made some changes. We'll talk about that in a minute. Vandalism investigations, theft, narcotics, traffic problems, parole compliance checks, probation compliance checks. We have homes operating as massage parlors in the city. We go in there and shut them down, okay? You name it, if it's involved in Temple City, we're involved in some way or other. Okay? Any questions so far? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. I feel like I'm going too fast, but I had some caffeine before it starts. All right? All right, good. Okay, so we do a lot of stuff, and I don't want to bore you with all the stuff that we do, but that gives you a general idea. Okay? All right, so let's go over the handouts real quick. If you would, make sure you've got one of these in front of you. And if you don't have one, I think we might have some more. Yeah, we do. So if you don't have one, just raise your hand and give you one. Anybody not have one? We're good? Okay, good. Okay, so basically, we're going to go through this real quick, and then we're going to get into the meat of what we want to talk about tonight. I hope to be done by 7:15, which is going to give Brian here, assuming in the city, 45 minutes to talk, because they've got the short end of the stick, and they've got a PowerPoint presentation, and they have a lot of good information for you. Okay? So we're going to make that happen. Well, I say that all the time, and I don't really make that happen. We're fine. Okay. All right, so the face sheet on your handout, all you need to worry about with that is our contact information. Okay, you don't have to worry about the fancy star and the city emblem and everything. My email address and my phone number. If you've got an issue at all, please email me. If you don't have email, call me. I say please email first because I'm finding with all the changes we made, I'm getting contact more by people. And if you call me about a problem, I have to write all that down. So if you email it and tell me what the problem is, I can respond right back. Just by email, I print that up, and now I've got to write where I go and do my investigation or whatever it is that you have to do to help you out. It's easier. But if you feel more comfortable calling, or that's the only way you can do it, call me. I'll answer. And I answer all my calls, all my emails. I've been diligent about that for the last 11 plus years. Brian Anderson's on here as well. He's from the city side of things, so if you have a code enforcement issue or what have you, no problem. Okay, we have Ian, Julian, and Jonathan just walked in. Wave your hands, guys. These are all city folks. Julian's going to be helping out with babysitting. Are we still working on the TV? You know? Yeah. Very good. They got it. Okay. What are we showing them, Julian? A ton of movies. What?
I got all Toy Stories. I have
Toy Story 5.
Yeah. All right, good. Okay, so if the parents want to take kids, Julian will show them kind of where they're going to be. But if the kids want to stay, that's fine. Kirk Cardell and Juan, okay? That's our contact information. We're going to have another member on our team. We just don't know who that is just yet. So, but at least you got my contact information. That's the main thing. Because I will get back to you. Okay. The next page, our agenda for tonight, just passed right by. We're going to go over it in a minute. We'll come back to it. Notes. I put a page with some lines on there, so if you want to write notes or you have questions, you can write on that, tear it off and give that to us as well. That's easier for you. Okay, so what happened was, basically, for several years, my partner Rich Soto had the program. And it used to be when this program started, whoever came up with the idea, I don't even know when, it doesn't matter. They started going block to block, all right? And they have block meetings, okay? Well, unfortunately, with all the stuff we have going on, and you're going to see all the stuff that we do, we're going to talk about some of the crime trends that are going on and all the things that we do as we go through our agenda. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do the blocks. And the problem, too, is that we have so many people moving in and moving out, and the whole dynamic of the city's changed, that maybe if we try to block it, we'll only get maybe 2 or 3 people. You know, you might have, like Vince, one of our council members, I think he's our mayor, right? He's our mayor now. When Vince was one of the council members.
You said you think?
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
yeah,
he is.
Yeah. Thanks. That's why I was going to you. I figured you would know. Well, but when Vince was one of our council members, he hosted one and we had a great turnout. And they shut the street down. The problem is, though, you might only get 1 or 2 people showing up, or you might get 10. Usually it's 1 or 2, maybe 5, 6. We're not reaching enough people. And I don't even know how many blocks we have in the city. Jonathan, how many idea, Brian? It's a lot. I mean, it's got to be over 300 or 400 blocks. I would imagine, right? There's no way we can do that. There's just no way. So we sat down with the city, our team, and we actually kind of just threw some ideas out there. And a lot of these ideas came from the city. Some were our ideas, excuse me. And what we came up with is breaking the city into 12 areas. Now keep in mind, as I talk to you about what we've done and what we're doing, we're still in the learning process of this whole thing. So this could all change, not drastically, but we're actually moving forward in a positive direction. And our goal is to get more and more people involved. Okay, that's what we want. And it's already working. Okay? So we broke down the areas. And you can see there's 12 areas. And why we did 12 was because we kept it somewhat small if we could. And our idea is to hit one of those areas every month for the year. So we hit them all in a year. The problem is by doing that, it's a lot for right now, and what we found is we're doing 10, and then we take off in November and December because of the holidays, because that's a rough time for everybody, and we're going to start back in January. So it's still going to be within a year and a few months. Every year and a few months, we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to do the material next time around, okay? That way it's something completely different. By the way, if you didn't get on the email list, if the contact list for Martin back, please make sure you do that because we're going to take your email and Brian Arizumi is going to send you the crime law that we put together. It's a report weekly that we do, and it talks about all the crimes, well, not all, the majority of the crimes. Sometimes we just one or two, you can do it report or whatever, right away. But you get the majority of the crimes in the city. It gives you the 100 block, the street, and everything else, and it kind of tells you what's going on a weekly basis. Okay, so please make sure that if you get a chance to put yourself on that contact list if you haven't already. Okay, so those are our 12 areas. You folks are area 5. So if you flip the page, here's area 5. Now what we did was, you can see on the legend, I'll let you take a look at it closer. This is a 6-month period, from February 1st to July 31st. In your area alone, in 6 months, you had 3 crimes. You had a grand theft auto, which is the GTA. You had a theft from a vehicle, which is a burglary out of your vehicle, or you left the car unlocked, right? And somebody went in there and took something. It could be a petty theft. And then you had 1 commercial burglary, which is a business, probably on Las Tunas. That's Las Tunas. Okay, not bad for 6 months. And you can see in some of the surrounding areas, they have more than that. And that's just one little section of those areas. So to the right of 5 would be area 6. Okay, but we're concentrating on your area tonight. So we're going to talk about the crime trends that you can see. Next page. This is a two-sided document that we hand out in your cars a lot of times. So if you're at Kmart, TJ Maxx, on Las Tunas, and you see us putting something on your window, it could be a parking ticket. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's going to be. And all we're doing with this is trying to make you aware of things that you can do to keep from being a victim of a vehicle burglary. Okay, that's all we're trying to do with that. And you can see, I'll let you take a look at it. We don't have time to go over the whole thing. It's just a little, hey, you did great, you didn't leave it in plain sight. Or, hey, yes, I had one car where they left the car unlocked, they had one of those detachable faces for their car stereo, but they left it right there on the seat. So when you open the door, you had access to how you can just pick it up and take it. You know, GPS and more hot items. We'll talk about that a little bit. Yes, sir.
On these crimes on this section here,
Yeah.
statistics on whether they're solved and people have been jailed.
You know, we don't provide that. We could get that, but the problem is, you know, that would be really hard to keep that, and the manpower just to have those statistics and maintain those on a regular basis would be too much for us. But I will tell you, the majority of the time, we don't find the bad guys. I mean, I could lie to you and say we do, but I'm not going to do that, right? The reality, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. The reality is we do catch bad guys. We had a situation, in case we're working right now, where somebody got ripped off, guarding equipment, which is the big thing that's going on right now, okay? And they got a license plate. And the son of the registered owner is the guy who did it. He's got a rap sheet. He was positively, rap sheet, I mean, I'm sorry, I'll keep you being criminal background, basically, criminal background, okay? He's had multiple arrests before, okay? And we're going to go arrest him, okay? What happened was we had the victim, the owner of the guarding equipment, actually positively identified him in the six-pack. So we put his picture in a piece of paper with 5 other pictures that match or somewhat similar to him, and he identified him. So we're going to arrest him. That's what we're here to talk about tonight, though. The reality is we don't always catch the bad guys, and probably more often than not we don't. That's why it's so important that we educate you to let you know what it is you can do to help us help you. So, make sense? Okay, very good. Next sheet, gang diversion team is a one-man team. John McNicholas. If you've got somebody who's a kid who's got an issues problem, maybe doesn't have a dad in his life, maybe mom's a mess, whatever, okay, because it happens, get a hold of John McNicholas. He'll meet with them. He'll offer counseling. There's a number of programs that he has access to. They might even send him to a juvenile hall to look at a juvenile hall, get to be really bad. So he's a great resource to use if you've got a kid who's messing up and really not going on the program. Okay. All right. The last 3 pages are contact numbers for you. Mark usually goes over those, but I'll just go over real quick. I'm not even going to go over them. You can see all the city services on the next page. Then shopping carts. We want you to report the shopping carts. We know that transits are an ongoing problem in our city. We'll talk about that too. Okay? And then graffiti. And it gives you the graffiti hotline number. We'll talk about graffiti. The city did something really amazing All right, so let's go back to the agenda. Any questions? Because I'm moving fast and I usually get a lot of people, but I do want to cover a lot. Anybody have questions? Jerry?
Are there
Oh,
certain,
we have Jerry here, sorry. Jerry's the city is recording, so you're all on camera. All right? So everybody smile. All right, look what?
I've noticed some cards stay out for quite a while. Is there some that they don't pick up or won't pick up?
You know, I think they're good. They'll pick up, they should pick up anything. Let me find out from Brian. Hey guys, shopping carts, the city will pick up any shopping cart, right? Or are they only select shopping carts legit?
No, the city will pick it up. We tend to get the shopping cart retrieval company for whatever the store is, such as Ralph or Valley Mart. We'll give them sufficient time to remove it, usually within 72 hours. If it hasn't been retrieved then we urge you to call us and we'll pick it up.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Shout out a little bit.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We've lived in the city for 10 years. This is the first time we got notice about this neighborhood watch. Is it something that's regularly going on that we've never heard about?
Yeah, well, we've had, like I said, we had a different watch program, but it wasn't being utilized probably the way it should have been. That's why we made those changes. So that's why we go door to door and hand out those flyers. You know, it's the first time we've received it. Right. And then you probably got a message from the city. The city sent a message out just kind of reminding everybody. But this is the first time in your area that we're doing this. We started in September was our first one that we did, and October. We went dark in November, December, so we didn't do it in November, December, and we started back up in January. So we only have 2 more this year to finish up to do our whole area, and we want to get more and more people involved. And we're also bringing more people in as volunteers. And Mark will talk a little bit about that as well. Okay? Okay, very good. All right, so let's talk about let's go to the agenda and talk about crime trends and statistics pertaining to your area specifically. All right? Some things you need to be aware of. Your biggest problem here in your area are property crimes, and that's true throughout the whole city, not just our city, but other cities as well. Okay? Burglaries, residential burglaries, and thefts. Okay? Now, burglaries, those we get maybe anywhere from 4 to on a high month, maybe 10 a month in the whole city. Okay? It all depends. It fluctuates. And we're going to talk about the reason why it fluctuates as we go. Okay? But comparatively speaking to the surrounding areas, we're doing really good. And I'm not kidding you. We're doing really, really well. Okay? Very well as far as crime. Now, we'll talk more in the other section here about what you can do to prevent burglaries, and protect yourself as well, so that if you are a victim, the damage is minimal. Okay? But we'll talk about that later when we go over recommendations, okay, which is the third section. Okay. Now, vehicle burglaries, this is what we need to touch on too, vehicle burglaries. Basically, how many of you leave items in your car, whether it's in your trunk, GPSs, computers, money, purses, wallets? How many of you have done that in recently? Jane, shame on you. Jane was actually responsible for helping us get some burglary suspects. She was able to keep her, and I wish I had more time to go into that long. Okay, here's the deal. If you've got anything in your car that you don't want taken, or that you don't want anybody actually going in your car and taking, don't put it in, okay? And I'm telling you, especially the ladies, we had an incident, we were here at the park, Live Oak Park, back in April, Easter, 2 Easters ago. Not last Easter, but the Easter before. The city had cameras. We got the car, we got the guys coming out of the car, breaking into the vehicles, but it wasn't close enough to get a license plate of the car. We did everything we could to try to find out. We have different links that we can go to that share information with other agencies, so we put it in, green sign. Trying to actually visit 2 or 3 different locations, hoping if by some fluke we might actually find it. We never did. Okay? But what the video surveillance did catch was these 2 ladies, 2 different cars, right next to each other. They get out. And what they do is they take their purses and they go to their trunk, right? Because they're going to be safe in the trunk, right? Both of them. And within a matter of a minute, two guys get out. They smash the windows. They pull the release for the trunk, and they go in and get the purses, and they're gone, just like that. We had black ones out there, but we were in the park. We were visiting people and making sure they were safer in the house. Okay, pretty cool. All right. What I tell people is this: if you ladies are going to go and put your purses in the trunk, you need to have your stuff. Do it in the trunk before you get to the store. Don't get out of the store. If you're shopping, don't push it in the trunk. Don't take your items, and throw them in the back and go back to the store. If you do, take them, throw them in the trunk, drive off somewhere else, and take the time to park somewhere else. You know, if you have to. If you don't care, it's not a big deal, then hopefully nothing will happen to you. So why take the chance? GPS, I can't tell you how important it is. GPS is laptop computers are left on, you know, in the cars, in plain people. Well, these guys, all they need is a little piece of a spark plug. And they hit the window, you don't even hear it, and they're in. And they're in seconds. And in case you haven't noticed, the transients in our city are a big problem for us. And we're going to talk about that too, and we'll talk about that in a minute. All right? My suggestion would be, especially for you ladies, don't put any more credit card in your purse really. Keep it simple. Like, I only have one credit card. Thank God I had 2 or 3 that you can staff. Right? Okay? I'm sure somebody can appreciate that. Okay? But just be careful about what you're putting in your car. And know that if something happens, you have to replace everything in your purse. Your license, passport, checks, all that other stuff. You know? Keep it simple. Don't leave it in the car. And don't leave jewelry in your purse that you don't want in your hand. Okay? And we'll talk about jewelry when we go to the residential stuff as well. Okay? So please, if you're going to keep it in the car at all, keep it in the trunk where you can't see it. Don't leave it in plain sight. All right. Any questions about that? No. That's easy. Am I that entertaining? You guys just bored? Be honest. Okay. All right. So let's talk about a couple other things. Those are your 2 big things. Property crimes. You know, the economy way is not, and I'll go on that. I'll touch on that a little more. Okay. We've had a problem with marijuana grows coming up in our city and surrounding cities. You know, it used to be marijuana grows, they would actually be somewhere in the mountains, right? You would think they got 100 plants, 1,000 plants. Well, not anymore. And what we're seeing is predominantly Asian kids, college kids, maybe some are gangsters, maybe some of them are out, okay? And that doesn't mean it's specifically going to be Asian kids, but that's the trend we see right now. And it won't be long before the Hispanics and the whites and, you know, the African Americans all, you know, figure it out and want to do the same thing, right? But what's happening is they're going to go in your town. We have one operating right now that we're keeping an eye on, okay? One that we know of, okay? There's probably 2 or 3 we don't yet, okay? What happens is they'll rent a place, they'll rent a house from somebody for 3 or 4 months, 6 months. They'll pay cash, get everything, move it at night, right? And they're going to unload, you know, all the ductwork they need, the lights, you know. They have these big things, I don't even know what they are. They put them into the wall, and they actually keep Edison from finding out exactly how much electricity is going through the house, because they're using a ton of it, right? So instead of what would normally be maybe $100 electric bill, how you guys pay $100 electric? More than that, yeah. So their bill, honestly, and they've got probably 20 times the amount of electricity going through with all those plants and lighting and everything, and their bill like $25. See, they haven't gotten that sophisticated yet, so the Edison knows that, and so they key on that and they call us and let us know. Hey, look, you know, this is a big house, there's a family there, and it's only $25. You know, can you look into it for us? Okay? But what they'll do is they actually cover up the windows, they'll put blinds up there, they'll put drywall up so you can't smell anything. They're going to put probably close to 1,000 plants in that house. And it could be in the whole house. It could be bathrooms, kitchen, bedrooms, and everything. It could be half the house if you're living in the other half. We've seen everything, okay? But you're only going to see them maybe once every 2 days. Once every 2 days they put in water. And if they got it on the system, those are going to check all kinds to make sure they're okay. A lot of times we find out about it because something happens in the short and also the fire, okay? This case, the one we're looking at right now, a resident came up to us in the park, at a concert in the park, and said, hey, these guys, you know, it didn't look right. They only come in at night. They were setting all this stuff up. They had all this equipment. Perfect. All right? So we're still working on it right now. I can't tell you more than that, but, you know, hopefully they're not watching. I'm sure they're not watching.
Can you there's a law if you have a medical need that you can grow your own?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, there is a law that you can grow your own. You're fine. You're absolutely right. And we don't have enough time to go into all of it. Yes, you can do medicinal marijuana. You can grow your own. There are restrictions and things like that. We're not talking about that, though. We're talking 1,000 plants. Okay? So let me just show you kind of, anybody have an idea? You have 1,000 plants, and in 2 months, they're going to be ready for picking. So they're going to pick all the buds, which are the parts that people use to get high with. They're going to pick all that off the plant. Any idea with 1,000 plants every 2 months, what kind of money they would make on that? Any idea? Just throw some numbers out there. Anybody?
100,000.
$1 billion.
100,000.
Close, $100,000. It's actually anywhere from $80 to $140,000 roughly is what they're making. Depending on how They sell it, they sell it in bulk or, that type of thing. Every 2 months. Now, I sent my wife a picture because we hit one a while back, right? And I've been involved about 5 or 6 of them now. And I sent her the picture of all the plants, and I told her how much they're making off these things, and she said, wow, so I think they're going to roll out of work. I think you're right. I think you're right. Okay? All right, but anyway, that's what we want you to keep an eye out for. All right, if you have something like that, where you have, and it doesn't have to be Asian kids, it could be anybody. And only come in there, you listen at night, there's no activity, you're not sure, let us know. I've had a few people come to me, and I've actually checked it out, and they've been legit, but you never know. You just never know, okay? So be aware of that. Fumigation, burglaries, not so much anymore, but if you're going to have your house tinted, let us know. Shoot me an email, because in the past, we still have going on in some of the surrounding areas, we've had crooks go in, and sometimes they have masks. Sometimes they just go into hotels over their face. First or second day that your house is tinted, they go and rip you off. They'll go in the back, they'll cut a piece, they'll cut the actual tent itself and go in, okay? So be aware of that. In some instances, we've had cars in the driveway. Neighbors have seen it, they haven't even called. So communicate with your neighbors. If you're going to get your house tented, if you're going to go on vacation, talk to your neighbors. And at least, nobody talks to their neighbors anymore, really, right? And it's hard. We're all busy. We have busy lives. I got 3 kids. They drive me crazy. I'm busy with, school and all that other nonsense that goes on, right? And all the students, reading around time, right? But I'm telling you, I always know my neighbors on both sides and across the street. At least get to know one of them, Take the time to say, hey, walk over with some food. I mean, that's huge, right? You want to make make nice with somebody, bring a pie or, something good, I mean, I like everything, so you can bring whatever you want, But no, I mean, seriously, we have to start working together and communicate. It doesn't mean that we have to, party with them and, you have to be, best friends. We just didn't know them. I had neighbors, that know what I do. And I didn't even know them very well, but I knew them through people in my church. And I gave them my house. And they watched my house and, tell my cat was out there. What? I gave my own. We'll talk about that. I'm worried about it. We'll get to that. Okay? But fumigation, burglaries, keep an eye out and let us know if you're going to do that. We don't want to do anything else. Not so much anymore in our city lately, but it could happen. All right, poser burglaries. Basically, we have crooks coming in. Some are gypsies. We arrested 2 gypsies, actually 4 gypsies, about 2 months ago. And basically, what one guy was on parole for, now he'd gone to state prison, was out, was supposed to behave, right? And he went and did the same thing to somebody in our city. What they'll do is, they'll prey on elderly people or people that don't speak English very well, that don't know what's going on, okay? And what they'll do is they'll go in under a number of different types of trickery, okay? What they'll do is, maybe they'll go in and say, hey, I want to paint the backside of my house. I'm your neighbor across the way, right behind you. Can I go through your house and look at the wall so I can see how much paint I'm doing? Well, as they're doing it, they're on the phone, and they're texting their buddy. Now they're looking through the house and nobody's here. Nobody's here, right? It's safe. Come on in. So now, boom, and his buddy is in there going through all your stuff, ripping you off, and they're out in a matter of a minute or 2. Okay? And they know where to go. They know what to look for. All right? My aunt lived in Temple City for years. She passed away about 8-10 years ago. She's watering her front yard, and she left the back door open. Or, I'm sorry, unlocked. It's closed, but unlocked. Somebody hopped over the fence and went into her house and stole a couple things, and she's walking back to the back door when he was coming out. I mean, do you really want that? Be thinking about that. How many people leave your doors open at home? Even when you're home? You're a mess. You're leaving your doors open. What was the other thing you were doing?
No.
No, the cell phone. He was talking on his cell phone. He shouldn't be. He was trying to tell me that Bluetooth about me. Right? Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
You have a big dog, though? Good to have a big dog. Get a big dog.
I'm the dog.
Big dog, yeah. Yeah, Jake can tell you about dogs. That's for sure. They're great. Okay. But anyhow, just be mindful about that situation. We did have a situation too that I want to tell you about where I based that on the story I told you about how they go in and talk about things in the back of the house. We actually had a situation like that where the gal, she thought something was kind of hinky. She ran over to her neighbor, and sure enough, they come running out with the stuff. Well, it worked out great because she called the station, gave us a license plate number. So if you ever get something like that where you can safely get the license number of the car, we want you to do that. Only if it's not going to put you in jeopardy. We don't want you, taking action or anything like that. She was able to call it in. Well, what happened was when she called it in, whoever took the call put one of the numbers in wrong. And then the deputy got the recordings off, right? So I had to go back and listen to the tape recording again and find the right place. The gal who the car belonged to, she was on probation for it. She was ripping everybody off. And she'd done it about 10 or 15 times. Right? And there were 4 or 5 pieces just in our area. It's in our area. Okay? We ended up finding her. We got her picture and we showed her to the victims. They didn't identify her because she looked different. We ended up arresting her anyway. And we made her put on the stuff that she had on before. We redid the field show and they identified her. And now she's going to go to jail for a very long time. She's on parole or probation. She's on parole for a very simple. Okay? Just be mindful of that. Don't let anybody in your house that wants to come to your house. If you didn't call somebody to your house, don't let them in. There's no reason for them to be there. And if you're not sure, call us. People don't ever want to call. And I'm not really sure. I didn't want to be, a pain in the butt. I didn't want to be a nuisance. Call us. See, when you call us, that gives us legal standing to stop that person, detain them, and find out what it is they're doing. Okay? That's what happens. You don't call us, we don't even know about it. Right? And if you don't call us and we see them, maybe in the neighborhood, we'll have to find a reason. And we usually find a reason to stop that person and talk to them. But just by your phone call alone, that gives us every legal right to stop that person, detain them, and find out what's going on. And if they're not doing anything, great. That's what we want. But if they are, and I'm telling you, you folks have been instrumental throughout the years in helping us find bad guys. We can't do it all alone. Our guys are out there, and we're out there arresting people on a regular basis. But you know what? We're not enough. There's crooks everywhere, and it's getting worse. We'll talk about it in a minute. You're right, and we're going to talk about that when we talk about all that we're going to get to that. Yeah. Okay. So be aware of that. Don't let anybody in your house. They're going to try to get in. If you didn't call them, there's no reason for them to be there. All right. All right. Vandalism. The city. I don't know. Is it on here? I know it's here. About a year and a half ago, the city decided to do another thing that they did. They decided to actually hire a company to do all the graffiti removal. And what they do is they document. They take a picture of it. They drive around activists throughout the city, and we call as well. Okay. They'll photograph it. There's a GPS coordinate that shows exactly where it was that graffiti had happened, the date that they photographed it, and they put a dollar amount to the damage. Now, let's talk about one of the cases we had. We had an instance where there were 4, 5, 6 kids, all high school learning center kids, that probably did about 175 separate acts of vandalism throughout the city. Well, all I did is I got a hold of one of the principals at the Learning Center, talked with him, he kind of had an idea of who one of the kids might have been. He get one of those kids, he talked to him, next thing you know, I had 5 other kids. We arrested all 6, and they copped out, they admitted to about 140 or 150 separate acts. Well, the great thing is, they go to jail, hopefully they don't do it again, and the city can get reimbursed for that as well, okay? So if you see graffiti, call that hotline, the number's in your packet. They will come out and clean it. And if we don't act on it or can't do anything about it right away, then eventually we find out how to do more bad. There's records keeping it forever. So we can go back and track those. Okay? So also another point too, just something to think about. We've actually had several people actually watching that what's going on when it was occurring, and because of that we've been able to detain and arrest kids as well. It's usually kids. Every once in a while adult, but usually kids. Okay? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Somebody comes into your house, like I have a whole family in the house,
Uh-huh.
what are you supposed to do?
Would you have a...
Like I have maybe grandchildren,
Uh-huh. Right.
Fathers, and all of that.
Okay.
Somebody's babying the phone.
Well, that's a good question. Here's the deal.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, he says that he's got a bunch of people in his house, and his question is, if there's a bunch of people in the house and somebody comes into it, invade, what do you do? Okay? I can't give you a definite for sure. There's some things you have to decide what you're comfortable with as far as what you're going to do. Okay? But I will tell you this. Most of the time, actually 99% of the time, the crooks aren't going to come in when you're at home. The only time they really ever do that is if they're running from us, you see on TV and they go into a home just trying to get away. Maybe it's a hostage situation, which is rare. It's a rarity, okay? Or you have a lot of money and they know it. Maybe you were gambling at a casino and they followed you home and now they want the money, okay? then you might have a situation like that. Typically, no, they're not going to come into your house. They don't want to get caught. That's not what they want. They don't want kidnapping charges. Kidnapping will get them the rest of their life in jail. They don't want that. They just want your property and want to get out. So if you're inside and someone's trying to break in, secure, get the kids as safe as you can, lock them in a bathroom or a bedroom, get on the phone and call 911. We'll be there in a minute or two. Okay? It won't take long. Now, if they're in, that's up to you. I mean, you might want to just go along with what they say. But now, if they're talking about, assaulting a woman in the house, what do you do? What do you as a woman do? That's a choice you have to make. I can't stand here and tell you, fight for your life because that could end your life. It just all depends. But the good thing is, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. I want y'all to turn. You guys are going to go home today. Man, we're just talking about all this crazy stuff and everything. And, I can't sleep tonight, right? I want to do it. Okay? But there are some things you're just going to have to make a decision on. I talked to all the schools about active shooter. We've had a lot of active shooter trends because unfortunately there's a trend in the United States now where people are crazy and they're going around killing people. And they're doing it on school campuses. Okay? That's not cool. We don't want that. We've done a number of things. I don't have time to go in to protect our schools. A number of things, and they're very well protected. Okay? The teachers once asked me, Rick, what do we do if we see somebody shooting? Do we go there and tackle the guy and take the gun or not? Well, I don't know. It's got to be a choice that you make as an individual. I can't tell you that. Because if I do and you end up getting hurt or killed, then, that's on me. But when you live with yourself, if you were behind something, you had an opportunity to stop them and save them, and you didn't. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know what I would do, but I'm a police officer. It's easy for me, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Let's say my house is alarmed, I put a security alarm, and somebody breaks in. What's the average response time for you guys to respond?
That's a great question. If it's like a window break or something, he's asking if we have an alarm on our house, what's the average response? I'm thinking it could be 5 to 6 minutes, but it could be longer. See, the problem is we get those all the time, and so if we're busy handling other things, we may not get to it right away. So
but you will definitely go there within like 10 to 15.
We'll definitely go there and check it, and we will. But a lot of times we can't get in the back because you have to engage a dog or block. Just know we're not going to go check back. We can't because those fences are high, and we end up going over and getting stuck back there. Or we come home and find a suit in your backyard. Hurt ourselves or whatever. I mean, just sometimes we just can't get back there and check it. But we try to get out there as soon as we can. That's what I can also tell you. We have 3 patrol cars in the city usually, sometimes 2. So Temple City has a traffic car, a crime car, and usually all of that car. Okay? But we have our motor, we have your special assignment team, and then we have resources throughout the county. So if there's something major that goes on, or our units are tied up, maybe we have a homicide, right? All our units are on it. Well, we'll bring in other deputies from other areas, Rosemead, that we can handle, South Lawn. And if that's not good enough, we'll bring it in from anywhere in the county. That's the great thing about our department and the service we provide. So,
Okay, thank you.
you bet. Okay, lastly, let's talk about transients, and then I want to give Mike for a few minutes on traffic. Okay, transients is an ongoing problem. We're working with Jose in the city and the council members to get rid of the recycling center on Las Tunas. Now, I'm sorry if some of you use that, and I know it's going to be an inconvenience for you, but 2 years ago, we looked at all the calls for service on Las Tunas, okay? On Las Tunas, between Baldwin and Rosemead, we had something like 90-some calls in a year just on Las Tunas. Not even the side streets, which I'm sure we had plenty, that had the word transient in it, or the person that was there I knew by name, because we have several that have grown up in the city, and they're still living here. Several of them we still arrest daily, or every once a week, So what we're doing is we're going to get rid of it. We're talking about maybe moving it somewhere else. We don't want it in the middle of the heart of Temple City. We want Las Tunas to be nice, right? And these guys and gals, they're coming up from Rosemead. What are you doing? I had to walk up the street with a shopping cart and a stroller with a cat cans and a stroller and a kid, or a kid, not that big, right? And the other half of the stroller had cans and then a shopping cart. Just coming from Rosemead. I mean, I can't tell you how many transit and homeless people you stop that are coming in from out of the area. Okay, they're the ones that are ripping off your cars in the parking lot. They're the ones that, I don't care, they're breaking into vacant homes and sleeping in the homes and committing crimes. So we don't want that element here. I'm Catholic, like many of you. I go to church every week, I'm all about charity. We like to help people, but we don't want that element. We don't want you being doing that. And that's where it's key for you too, not to leave your stuff in the car, not giving them opportunity. I can't tell you how many times we ever put good cars in the lot. We had money, If it's in the garage, lock in the garage, leave it unlocked. Don't do something, Okay. Mike Baker, traffic guy. I want to get him about 5 to 10 minutes. There's no way I'm going to do by 7:15. Sorry, Brian. I just talk too much, It's just a fault that I have, so I'm sorry. But we'll get through it. We'll get you out of here, buddy. Okay, so Mike, if you have any questions about traffic issues, talk to Mike about it. He can answer those questions. Now, if you have a problem that you need something done about, tell me where it's at, the times you're having problems, and we'll get to it. I'll email, shoot me the email, I'll get it to Mike, and we'll work it together. Okay, just so you know. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, once again, Mike Baker. I'm the motorcycle officer in the city. So I basically do the traffic enforcement here. We do have, each shift, we do have a traffic car that also is assigned for traffic control and traffic enforcement. So 24 hours a day, the city does have traffic enforcement. There's a lot of things going on in the city right now as far as the streets, enforcement, and stuff going on. They do have traffic calming studies going on in the city, which basically they're determining ways to better control the flow of traffic through the city as far as slowing streets down and stuff like that. There's safe routes to school that's going on. There's been several areas that have been selected to make it safer for the kids to get to school and safer for them to ride the bikes, walk to school, stuff like that. Because the schools, when they were designed, they weren't designed for as many students as they have. They weren't designed for as many people dropping off in cars and stuff. So a lot of the schools are a major issue with, a 20, 30-minute period. You have all this huge influx of vehicles, and then half hour later, everything's gone. But a lot of them weren't designed for that, and they're trying to make it a little safer and a little easier for kids to get to school using the alternate methods. Basically, does anybody have any traffic questions? Yes,
I have a pet peeve though.
Sure.
Bring it on. You want to hear it?
Really, I've never seen so many people not pull over on Las Tunas when the fire department has
decided. That, for this area and stuff, is more of an issue than other areas I've worked. I've patrolled other areas where the fire department goes down the street and everybody.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing for me too. A lot of people don't realize with law enforcement vehicles, police vehicles, police motorcycles, stuff like that, I'll throw the lights and sirens on and I'll have people passing me. and that's an expensive ticket, because a lot of times I'll go, no, forget that person that I was going to go pull over. This guy's going to get it. Yeah, I don't understand why that is for the area, because I have been assigned other areas where they do pull over, but that's not just Temple City here. That's throughout. I've worked several of the other areas around this area and seen that in a lot of the surrounding areas. It could be training as far as driving, stuff like that, but you're right, I do see it, and they don't pull over for me either. So I can't explain why that is, but we do issue tickets for that.
Can I add something?
Sure.
The problem is too, just so you know, we have to be there to witness it if we're going to write a ticket for it. Right. And there are a lot of times we're rolling code 3 and we have the same problem, but we're rolling to your house because we want to help you. We don't have time to stop the person and write up a ticket, unfortunately. However, here's another option I just thought of, or an option. If you happen to see that and you can get a license plate down, if they live in the city, we can go and talk to them and say, hey, look, you were a witness, we can't do anything about it now, but just be mindful of it. Yeah, it may or may not make a difference, but we can try. It's something we can do. And we do that a lot with the schools. If someone's, running through, going too fast or almost hits a kid and someone gets a license plate, if they're in Temple City, we'll go by and talk to her, or close. But we can't obviously go to, Hermosa Beach. That would be good. We could, maybe go surfing or whatever, kind of make it a business trip, but, okay, sorry.
Usually sometimes, especially in your block, you can't even pull over because there's somebody right next to you and you're trying to, so let's just stop.
What,
that happens.
on that?
Can everybody hear that?
That's a good question. She's asking basically, if the streets are really crowded, fire department, police department's going down the street, they have their lights and sirens on. The street's crowded, what are you supposed to do at that point? Obviously, the law states hold to the right to stop. If there's a vehicle immediately to your right, obviously you have to stop. And you don't keep going unless, you know, there's an area where here's a car right next to you and they've stopped and there's a huge one, a curb empty, just pull right over and go that. But I mean, if there's constant cars, you move to as far to the right as you can without obviously striking another vehicle or anything like that to allow the fire department or police department to head through. The reason that is, the reason they have you pull to the right is whenever we have our lights and sirens on, we're not allowed to go to the right. If we actually have a car that stops in the center lane and we're stuck there and there's lines of cars the other way or a concrete median, we can't go to the right. If we go to the right and then somebody decides to change their mind and go to the right and we have an accident, we're at fault. Okay, so that's why we'll sit behind somebody and hit the horn and hit the siren and yell at them to get over and sit there and sit there and sit there, because if we go around like that, we could actually be at fault for an accident. So as far as you can to the right, safely.
Sometimes, especially on students,
Right.
really busy on certain times.
Right, exactly.
And when the signs are on, like, well, it's better, since they're not moving, I can't move, so I'm just gonna stay here until you guys move on. You should do that.
Right, and normally there's a, as long as everybody's kind of pulling to the right, we can get past, but just keep that in mind. And there's people, we'll throw the lights and sirens on, and the first thing they do, even to stop somebody, they'll jump in the left turn lane, make a left turn, and you can actually get cited for that. It's always the right curb, safely. And another thing I see is I'll turn the lights and sirens on, and people will actually just, no matter who's next to them, whatever, they just make shoot to the right and almost cause accidents. So anytime you're going to the right for the lights and sirens, just pull safely to the right. Make sure you clear the lane next to you, whatever you have to do, and pull over into a space where it's safe.
Is it okay to yell, I hope it's going to your house?
Sure.
One thing I've noticed is that it seems like there's an increased speed in the residential streets where everybody knows you can cut through and avoid signals, and maybe you have only 1 or 2 boulevard stops. And I mean, we live on Cloverly, so it's a great street if you're cutting from Lower Azusa to all the way up. And it's a perfect example. I mean, cars are flying by 45 and whatever, and there's kids and adults and dogs and animals and everything else.
I have a whole list I keep updated on my smartphone as far as different locations that people give, as far as, hey, this is a problem area. Because there's a lot of times we'll drive down the street and somebody will say, hey, this street, we have a ton of problems, people flying down the street. Go over there, sit there, and 2 cars will go by within a time. So anytime if you give them, hey, this is a problem area we have, if you can put a time frame between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., whatever it may be, or in the afternoon, whatever the hours are, it makes it a little easier, because we'll get over to the street, and I've had somebody, I've actually sat on Cloverly and worked Cloverly. And there's been times where I say, hey, there's a lot of cars doing this and that, I'll go over there and have 3 cars go by in a half hour, And one of the other things we have to do is we have to work a lot of the areas where we have traffic collisions. A lot of where we do the enforcement and where we do that stuff is in relationship to where we have the collisions, because they'll actually give us, hey, this intersection has the majority of the collisions, this one over here, this area here. So a lot of times we work with those areas to try to cut down the collisions and actually make a difference on that. So that's what we do, but we additionally do enforcement when somebody says, hey, this is a problem area, just give us the time.
If I can just add to that, as Deputy Baker mentioned, the city is proactively looking at ways to calm traffic throughout the city. We've been, since October of last year, working with a consultant to develop a traffic calming master plan citywide. And it's going to be involving installing speed bumps or speed humps, bulb outs, raised crosswalks, different improvements to either deter that cut-through traffic or to slow down the speeds in the residential neighborhood. So it's not something that's going to be a fix-all. There's certain improvements that may work on some streets that don't work on others. It depends on the volume of the street, the number of vehicles that drive on the street, the speeds on that street, and such. With that being said, September 12th in the council chambers, we will be having a meeting with our Public Safety Commission and our City Council. It's a joint meeting with the two bodies that will be reviewing the draft calming master plan. And so the public is welcome to attend and provide your input on the plan. We did hold 2 workshops. There's information available on the city's website, videos of the past presentations, as well as the presentations and any handouts and a traffic calming toolbox, so you understand what these traffic calming terms are. And so that's something that if everybody has a concern about speeding or anything through the neighborhood, come out to the meeting and let us know what your opinion is and what you think about it. And also, we'll be deploying, you've seen it around town, I'm sure, once in a while. We have a radar trailer, a speed trailer, that will be deploying citywide on a more regular basis. And so you'll see that on various streets, whether it's on Las Tunas, it could be on Cloverly, it could be on Arden, Encinita. And so it'll be deployed in various locations at different times of the day. Sir?
I just wanted to second kind of what you saying. I live on Bible, I've lived there about 10 years. And my house is shaking. There's one stop sign on this car actually here. People just wake up from here.
They say from Cloverly?
Rick, can you repeat? We couldn't hear what was being said.
Can't hear.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, he's talking about Live Oak, going westbound Live Oak from Cloverly toward Encinita, that there's speeding going all the time. And look, it's a problem everywhere, just so everybody knows. And I do want to keep things moving, because we could spend a lot of time about traffic issues. Make sure you email us and let us know. We will enforce to the best of our ability, but there's so many problems everywhere, you know, that all we can do is try to manage as best we can. And we will. We'll get out there and we will enforce for you. But I know we had one last question or comment that you want to make before we move on. So
I was just going to say that I live on Broadway, which is right around the corner, and it has become a more commercial traffic lane than it used to be. And as he was saying, I mean, my house literally shakes.
That's true. I live on Broadway too. Yes.
What's going on?
Like large vehicles?
Yeah, more trucks, more large vehicles, yeah.
And it
Yes.
Broadway, yes.
The only time, and I haven't seen the large trucks come down there, the only times that large vehicles like that are allowed outside of the truck routes is if they're actually making a delivery within
No,
that
I'm
area.
not talking about like the Arrowhead, the Sparklets, and stuff like that. Now, there are actual commercial vehicles using Broadway as a shortcut to avoid Laura Sousa and Las Tunas because the traffic is too bad. So they're cutting down, and it's literally, I mean, it's obnoxiously loud, obnoxiously annoying.
And what else have you seen? Because I travel Broadway quite a bit. I don't see a whole lot of huge vehicles, but
Honestly, in between like 7 o'clock and maybe 5, 6 o'clock at night.
will you email me with the exact route block, and we'll get out there and enforce for you, okay?
And now, and like I said, the large vehicles are allowed on those streets if they are making a delivery within or close by that area. Otherwise, they would have to go around and actually take a truck.
Well, I don't know what's under construction recently, but.
That could very well be. If you have a house or something that's under construction.
You're right. I was traveling on Broadway today, walking, and there were 3 construction type vehicle big trucks from Alessandro, Broadway, and Cloverly.
Yeah, if they're doing a construction on a house within that area.
There is no construction. Oh my God.
If they're constructing, they can.
Was there or was there not? And I will be quiet after this. Was there or was there not a meeting at Live Oak Park a few months ago, or a couple months ago? I intended to be there, but I had to be out of town. And it was about traffic. And my main concern was about the incredible use of Broadway being used as an alternate route.
They went and they parked on Alessandro, and it was about 9:45 this morning. Yeah.
Well,
I was
I
walking.
think the most important thing to realize is
Just let us know, and we can check into it. I mean, I don't know whether the house is under construction or not. I couldn't tell you. But we can stop them if they're outside of that. Now, if they do give us paperwork saying, hey, I'm going to this address, we can't cite them. But if they are outside of those areas, we can't actually stop them to verify, hey, where are you going? You're not in a truck. So they can be stopped just for being on.
That's you.
And make sure you go, you know, if it's a serious concern and it's something that's really bothering you, because some people are more bothered than others, make sure you go to the traffic calming studies and the meetings that the city's having. That's all the reason they're doing it, is because they want it to do. And that's the form to do it. But we'll certainly enforce it. Shoot an email. All right, good. Mike, thank you very much. Mike will be here after we're done, okay? The only reason we're moving this thing through as we are is so that we can get those that are, you know, that need to get this Friday night, and, you know, many of you may have to have a long meeting, want to go home and relax. So you may want to go out and, you know, I don't know, get your groove on later on tonight, go dance. Hey, maybe not. Yeah. All right, so we want to get you out of my game. So we'll stay as long as we need to help you out, okay? We'll stay as long as we have to, just so you know. All right, so going back to the agenda, quality of life, nuisance abatement. Brian's going to talk about nuisance abatement when he does his presentation, or whoever does that. But basically, we've had problems in the past where we have drug dealings. We go and hit the house with a search warrant. We don't find narcotics, or we find narcotics, and now the girl's going to work with our narcotics crew to find bigger and badder fish out there, right? Well, then it doesn't pan out, and the activity's still going on, okay? What we'll do is, and what I've done several times now throughout the city is, I do renting, I get a hold of the property owner. They don't need a reason to evict. I mean, it's bad enough just the criminal activity. They don't even need a reason. And they've actually, on 3 separate occasions now, 3 or 4, they've actually evicted the people and gotten them out of the city, okay? And our nuisances that we have, we're on them all the time. Probation searches at their homes, local compliance checks, whether we're stopping them in our house. We tell people, look, if you're committing criminal activity in our city, you can call whatever you want. You can call harassment if you want. We're going to be on you. If there's criminal activity going on, we're going to stop you and find out what's going on. It is what it is. You know, I mean, in a way, it is harassment, but we don't want criminal activity in the city. And we're going to do whatever we need to do to keep that from happening. Quality of life could be anything like I mentioned earlier. So, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory as far as quality of life goes. Protection against identity theft. Okay. How many of you actually leave your mail out with your checks, with your routing number and your account number on your checks? Somebody still do? Come on. That's right. I know a couple of you do. Good, good. All right. There's always at least a few, and probably several that not raise their hand. All right. But here's the deal. What happens is these tweakers, these dopers that want to go out and, you know, rip people off so they can buy dope, they go to your house on a regular basis. They just take it. Now they have your account number, your name, and the routing number for your account number. So they can take that, they can wash the check, and erase whatever amount you put in there, leave the signature, and write it to somebody else with a different amount. They can actually take that information, write a new check. I mean, it's amazing what they can do. They don't even need to steal that anymore to take your identity. I was a victim of identity theft 2 years ago, Christmas time. They got me for they opened a Kohl's account, Henry had Kohl's, and I think they got it for about $900. My Best Buy account, which had 0 balance for years, you know, I didn't go ahead and let them on it. They charged us $5,000 or $6,000 to Best Buy, okay? And I honestly didn't know. That is just a bigger crime. When I think it was Pete Wilson, but I don't remember for sure. One of the governors years back passed the 3 strikes rule. Well, all the courts, instead of bringing people off and doing the kidnappings that we talked about, they don't want to put our slide in jail, right? Because we're doing those heinous crimes. Then they're looking at strikes and they're looking at spending the rest of their life in jail. Well, now they found if they just do property crimes that are serious, they won't get a strike necessarily. It all depends, but not as bad. So they're out ripping people off. Identity theft is huge, and banks aren't doing much about it. So the crooks are doing it more and more, right? Why do the banks not doing anything about it? Because they have insurance. They don't care. They're making all the money. In case you haven't noticed, we don't have any, right? How many in this room have money? I have none. I don't have any money, right? But the banks are sitting on all the money. They got all the money. They don't care. So all I can tell you about that is don't make it easy for the crooks. You can be a victim either way. If you are, report it to Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian. One of those 3 credit bureaus, just one, and then they'll tell everybody else. And get a copy of the police report once the report's written, and they'll red flag your account for 10 years. It's 7 or 10 years. And that way, it'll make it harder for someone else to get your credit, your name, without them verifying who you are first. Yeah, it's kind of an inconvenience because you may be at the store trying to get credit for something, you have to call them and, you know, give them, basically give them your fruit corn. You know, whatever they want. You have to give them all that information, but you want protection. So, and if you are the victim, just make sure you report it, and you're fine. You know, I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be where you have to worry about things. They'll clear your credit for you automatically, okay? But there have been other cases too. you to be smart about what you're doing. If you have paperwork at home, shred it. If it's got account numbers and social security numbers, things like that, just shred it. You know, it just takes a nice few seconds to do it. All right? You're not going to fall asleep on me, are you? You're yawning. That's not allowed. No, you're fine. I'm just kidding. Yes, sir.
Speaking of identity theft, I've noticed people, they go around and are going through people's trash cans on trash pickup days.
Sure.
And they may be getting cans and whatever and stuff.
Yeah.
They also may be taking your information off of bills you throw out, or
Absolutely.
magazine subscriptions, or whatever.
No, you're right. Great point.
What's the law on going into somebody's trash?
Trash is trash. You know, homicide does it all the time with murder suspects. You know, they want evidence, they can't go in there right now, or they didn't get something, or they haven't got a search warrant yet, but somebody throws something out. It's fair game, it's trash. So there's nothing you can really do about it other than shredding it, making sure you're not doing that.
If they're removing the cans of recyclables, there is something that we can do.
Yeah.
Removing those recyclables is actually committing theft from the city. And so if it's observed by residents, they call either the city or the sheriff's department. We'll get out there. I cited someone last week for just that.
And I have too, and Brian's right. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a misdemeanor violation, so it's like shoplifting.
You can call the city, you can call the station and report it.
When
call the station.
When is it going to happen? Moving the thing out of Ralph's. When is? Do you guys know when it'll happen?
It's still being worked on. There's some legal issues that we're working out.
Oh, okay.
We're hoping by the end of the year, but we don't know for sure. You know, I mean, as soon as we can, we will. But like Brian said, there are other legal issues we need to worry about, so we just have to go through. You know, and part of the problem is the way things were done before. You know, the city's coming in, they're cleaning everything up, and they're doing it the right way. They're changing codes, they're updating everything. So we just have to be careful. We don't want to get sued. We want to be fair. We want to be right about it. But at the same time, handle, which we will. So, okay, moving on. All right, let's talk about the department responses when they call 911 versus the business line. Now look, if something is going on, I want you to be clear about one thing tonight. If you've got a problem, or even if you're not sure about something, maybe someone looks suspicious in the car. Remember I told you that it is the right to detain them legally? Call us. I don't care if you're not even sure. Call us. You're going to call the station at the 285-7171 number, which I don't think they're on there. I should. But it's 285-7171. Most of you can go online, get it. You know, you call information and get it. But it's 285-7171. And that's just for general reporting. If you've got a question, you've got a concern, something like that. 911 basically is just for emergencies. You know, if someone's breaking into a car and you're witnessing right then and there, call 911. If you get home and you find the victim of a burglary and you don't know if you're still in your house, call 911. If somebody's not breathing or somebody's injured seriously, call 911. Any questions about any of that? Kids, what did that? Do not play on 911. What happens if you let kids do that, which is fine, it happens, it's no big deal, right? However, if we don't contact the parent, we just send a deputy out there. We don't really want to send the resources out to a house for a kid playing. So if you happen to mess around, or even if you're an adult and you dialed it accidentally, sometimes people are calling overseas. Just if they call back, answer the phone, all they want to know is, hey, are you okay? You tell us everything's fine, I'm sorry, I gelled or whatever. We said, thank you, that's it. Okay? We're not going to take you away. All right, emergent, priority, and routine call response times. Emergencies are what we talked about. We're going to get there within a minute to two. You got to remember, it all depends on how easily we get the information from you. So when we're asking you questions, pay attention, try to be calm because you're going to be excited about an emergency, and you're going to be wondering, why on earth are you asking these questions? Well, there's a reason for it, okay? Just trust me, there's a reason for it. Answer it, and then move on to the next question so we get somebody out the right away for you. All right? Usually 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how long, well, I guess if you're on the phone for 1 to 2 minutes, you can't get it really out. A lot of times we'll get the information with basic stuff, we'll send it out, get the units rolling code 3 to get you, and we'll update your call as well. All right? Usually 1 to 2 minutes. Because we won't it's not usually much at all. Because if we need someone rolling, even if we have someone rolling from Rosemead or somewhere else, they're going to roll code 3. So they're going to get it pretty quick. Priority calls, maybe a kid locked in a car, could be an emergency, maybe not. If it's not so hot and he's only been in there a minute, it may make it a priority with voice to get somebody out the right away. May not be rolling code 3. But if it's like it's been, we may send somebody code 3 all the time. Okay? Priority could be you come home and you've already gone through your house. Someone give me a good priority call that I use one other example. Traffic collision. Or what's that one?
Family disturbances.
Family disturbance, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, so maybe a family disturbance where there's arguing going on, but we don't think anyone's hitting at this point. We'll make that a priority. We're going to make it a priority. We're going to get there quick. We may not authorize a code 3 roll, which means red lights and sirens, but we are going to get them within 3 or 4 minutes. And we're going to do our darndest to get there right away. All right? And then your routine calls are, hey, you went home, somebody broke into your house, you've already checked that they're gone. You just need a report, or you need to talk to somebody, or maybe you're for whatever reason. Those are routine calls. Now, those can be a while. So, I mean, generally, I'd love to tell you if we're going to be there in 5 to 10 minutes, but with only 2 or 3 cars, it may be a while. And if they're stuck on something, it might be a while. So just know that happens. Now, if you're concerned, if you're concerned about it, you want to know, hey, I'm a little upset because I got this, I called, call me or email me, and I'll find out what's going on. And if we drop the ball, I'll tell you. And if we need to, if that deputy needs to be, talked to or disciplined, then I'll give it to him, and then we'll go that way. But a lot of times there's actually a valid reason for it, you just don't know. And I'll tell you, unfortunately, the desk doesn't always do the greatest job of letting you know what's going on. You have to remember we have civilians that are working the desk, we have deputies that are brand new, we have deputies that don't want to be there. I mean, it's a human factor, and I can lie to you and tell you, hey, everyone's going to be great, right? They're going to be like me, they're going to, okay, just take your time. I've only got about 30 of the calls, but I got a half an hour to listen to you, go ahead. Right? But generally speaking, we do a pretty good job, but we do drop the ball sometimes. It happens, we're human, okay? But if you do have a problem like that, you can do 2 things. If you need somebody right away that night, and you're having a problem, you're not getting what you need, and I told you to call the department if you have a problem and they're not taking the call, you can talk to the watch deputy or the watch commander and go that route with it. But if it's just something where you're just a little worried about or concerned, you want to make a big deal of it, you want to know, shoot me an email and find out what you know. Go from there. Okay, yes, sir.
Business line 25/7, 24 hours.
Yes, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Absolutely.
And in case the neighbors having parties, and when you call, do they say, oh yeah, your neighbor on the left, your neighbor?
No. And that's a good question. No, that's a good question. There's a lot of, the shirt that was next door to complaining. What we'll do is we can, we won't, if you don't want us to go to your house, let us know. Look, got a party, I'd rather have you contacted, but I'd like to talk to you. We'll do that. They didn't ask your name and your phone number. And we used to tell people, hey, go ahead, just don't worry about it. Tell me you don't want to leave it. I'm going to tell you this. If you don't want to leave your name and your phone number, we'll still go out. But I would prefer that you leave your name and your phone number. Here's the only reason why. There's new case law that says, look, if someone calls and they're anonymous, you go check something out and you arrest them, that case could get into because you don't have anybody to verify that it was an anonymous caller. They're worried about police officers being corrupt and calling stuff in, or whatever the reason was for the case law. But not only that, I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. Somebody help me out. What was I just saying? This is test. No, cut off time, anonymous, yeah, so anonymous, but also we're taking, that helped, that was perfect. That was perfect. See, that's what happens with old age. Yeah. But no, what happens is, with anonymous caller, we're going to want to call you back, okay? So we're going to want to call you back and ask for your name and your number. We're not going to give it to the problem child. We're not going to give it to your neighbor and say, hey, this is, no.
So there's no cutoff time for noise?
No. Noise, typically 9 to 10 at night, but there is no set rule. If it's disturbing your peace, then it's a problem. Okay?
I'm sorry, because what time, do they have a rule of 10 p.m.?
I don't think there's a city ordinance about 10 p.m. I'm aware of, right?
I don't think there is.
7 a.m. to 10 p.m. is considered daytime hours, and 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. is nighttime hours. And depending on the level of the noise, it's the decibel level that is measured. And at a daytime level, it is a higher level, and in the evening hours, it becomes a lower level. So there's also certain noises that, just based on distance, if it's audible, we, the city or the sheriff's department, can take some action on that.
And I do want to reiterate, though, that if you've got a call at 9 o'clock at night and they're like super loud and you get kids are sleeping, that's disturbing your peace. We'll come out and deal with it. Okay?
How about if it's every single Friday night?
Yeah, if it's every single Friday night, you can call me. No. So why have a party every Friday night? No, you email me, give me the address, I'll talk to them for you. We'll go by there and talk to them. Yeah, no worries. And that's another thing too. Come on and I'll still go. I'll talk to property owners. I'll take that email you send me and I'll write on there, hey, contact so and so, warn and advise. If we need to go out there on Friday night, we need to adjust our hours to go there and sign. We will. Now, signing gets tricky though. I don't want you to think I'm going to go out there and get a ticket because you have to go and go to court and everything else. Most of the time, if you warn them, and that's enough. But if they're a nuisance and ongoing problem, we're going to strongly urge you to sign a citizen's arrest. We're not going to arrest them. We're going to write them a ticket. They're going to do a report on it. That should get their attention. Make sense? All right, good. All right. I want to keep moving. I want to get Brian some more time. So, information you can pass on to the desk, just like I mentioned before. We need whatever they're asking for responding deputies so they know, okay? If you have a problem or an issue, call me and say, hey, why did you ask me this? And I'll talk to you. We'll talk about it, okay? That way you know. That way you're not left kind of in the dark. Who to contact when unsatisfied? Ask for the watch deputy that night. If that doesn't work, you're not getting what you need from him or he's busy, just go straight to the watch commander. Okay? Now, if it's something like I said earlier, where maybe there's concern or you have an issue, then just shoot me an email, if it's something I can handle, I will. If it needs to go to law as a sergeant, then it will, and then we'll take care of it on an administrative level as well. All right, quickly, I want to go through recommendations to make your homes safer. We're going to talk about that just for a few minutes. We're going to get to Brian. Now, the good thing is, I'll come to your house and look at your house for you if you want to talk about that as well. Communication, I touched on that between your neighbors. Talk to your neighbors. All right.
You know my neighbor.
That's true. All right. Talk to your other neighbors. Talk to your other neighbors. All right. But we want you communicating, okay? You got to communicate. If you're going to go out of town, I tell people, we'll do a vacation check, email me. I'll send a patrol, I'll go by, you need to pick up your mail, I'll pick up your mail. All right?
Yeah, that's
and then
fine.
when you're eating, I'll feed you cat. Yeah, we have to have friends over though, you know, after hours. I'm teasing. No, but seriously, I mean, I can help you out. We'll do vacation checks for you. If you don't have anybody to pick up your mail, I'll go by for a couple of days. And obviously, I can't justify this to you or picking up your mail. Then the word's gonna get out. Hey, I'm going on vacation on route picking my mail. We have mail, you know. So.
Dry cleaning too.
Dry cleaning, yeah. Well, Jerry's got the dry cleaner, so he's going to take care of that, yeah. Okay, securing locking homes, we talked about it. Lock your homes. If you're a home, lock your doors. Lock them. I don't care. If you're turn and lock them, I lock them. I don't leave them open. I don't want to be walking on your kids. Lock them. Okay? Somebody's in your backyard, along. All of us, call 911 in your backyard. That would be an emergency because we don't know what they're doing. We want to know. It could be a crook. You could have broken into the house next door. Could be looking at your house. We want to know. We're going to get the right of way. We don't want to lose that. All right. Effectiveness of home security, dogs, alarm, surveillance. Dogs are great. They really are. I did have one case in Lakewood where when I first started patrol about 18 years ago, and this crooks, we went out the house and he ran out the back door right past his pit bull, and the dog didn't know what happened, you know? Didn't move. But typically speaking, dogs are good. Alarms are great. I never had an alarm in my house until a few years ago. I never needed one. Because I never keep it in my house that I don't care about. Right? Safe deposit box. Get a safe deposit box. Get a safe and put it in your house for a couple $100. Hide it, lock it, bolt it down so they can't get to it. Keep all your valuables, your jewelry, your sentimental things you care about. The rest, who cares? I mean, I had a 65-inch TV. It was the only thing that I was able to decide when I remodeled my house. Did the whole house. Spent almost $300,000 for sold. I don't have it. I'm homeless. So I'm serious brag. I'm actually trying to live in the streets. But I'm not recycling. Okay? I'm not recycling. I'm not stealing. Okay? The only thing I got to pick on that house when I did it was the TV. 65-inch. Somebody takes it, they take it. I'll buy another. Who cares? But you ladies have sentimental jewelry, right? You might have some important papers. Just take that stuff and throw them in the safe deposit box in the bank for $50 a year or whatever it is now. Don't leave anything in your house that's not secure that you don't want to lose, and you'll be fine. The rest of the stuff is all materialistic. Who cares? Who really cares? As long as you're healthy, right? And happy. Everybody happy? Everybody happy?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, that sounds better. I'm starting to worry here for a second. Yeah, me too. Surveillance is great if you can afford it. We had a situation where a lady had surveillance cameras and she saw females fencing in her neighborhood with the work, checked the surveillance with the cameras because I want to make sure. And sure enough, they were breaking her house. She calls us and reporting it as it's happening, giving us a full description of the guys. My partner got there right before I did. I got there behind him. Next thing you know, these two suspects were running from him. One comes out to me, brushes himself off, acts all dumb. So I said, get down on the ground. I'll keep it clean. Mr. Nice Guy. And I handcuffed him, throw him in the back seat of my car. The other guy, who's got hiding in the house, well, we didn't find him. The can dog and bit him. Okay? both went to jail. Now, as I'm sitting there on the containment, we're doing our thing. I'm looking up at this truck, and it's a black truck, and I'm thinking, that was the truck I'm looking for in another burglary because we had a neighbor that got broken into somewhere else in the city. And her neighbor saw these guys go up to the house, but never thought to tell her until after the fact. Didn't get a plate on the truck, but it was a black truck with the Virgin Mary in like white vinyl on the back, so they thought it really wasn't that. But it ends up, that truck was the truck, they were good for a caper. We do a search warrant, we go to his house in El Monte, he's in with like 5 or 6 other guys, stole stuff all over his room. So we told the guys, why don't you guys take this stuff? You know he's arrested. Hey, we don't want any, they're honest guys, they don't want anything to do with it. This guy, out of work, down on his luck. Hey, the economy is bad right now. I mean, it's bad. So you need to keep an eye on it. If you've got somebody you're not sure about in your neighborhood, they don't get it all, you need to get a hold of us. You need to call me, email me, let me know so we can deal with it. Okay? All right. Where to hide valuables, we talked about that. The main thing you need to know before I finish is that I will come to your house and go over your house. We'll talk about bushes, we'll talk about lighting, we'll talk about whatever we need to talk about to make your home safe. All you have to do is email me, and when I get time, I'll do it. Just remember that my job is getting more and more demanding, which is good because I have more and more people who need it. I can get 3 or 4 emails a day. I mean, I get a lot of emails a day, but just from residents that are concerned about something, they have a question, I've got to look into it. You know, I will get back to you, but it may not be right away. Okay? All right, I'm going to give you to Brian. You still got 20 minutes. Brian, I don't know what we're going to do, man. I don't know. Oh, yeah, Martin, I'm sorry. Martin's my #1 volunteer guy. We have about, I don't know, 8 to 10 volunteers that are like area leaders. It's not very involved, but if you're interested, please see Martin when we're done, because we need your help. So if you want to get involved, not hard thing at all to do. And he's just going to talk to you for a few minutes, and then we'll get to Brian.
Okay, yeah, very quickly. Everything you've heard tonight about crime and graffiti, etc., is affecting you and your neighborhood and my neighborhood, Temple City in general. I'm the lead volunteer for Neighborhood Watch. We need your eyes. People always say, what can I do as part of Neighborhood Watch? If you look out your window, if you walk in your neighborhood, you drive in your neighborhood, as the sheriff was saying, if you see something strange, let us know. But one of the things I insisted on that's in your handout are those last 3 pages that say, who do you call? Because a lot of people see things and they go, well, who do I call? Well, all of the phone numbers are in those last 3 pages. You see graffiti, call the graffiti line. You see shopping carts, call the shopping cart line. You see lights out in the street at night, you can call the city, call Edison. You see a gas leak, or hear a gas leak, or smell one, call the gas company. You see something wrong with the water supply, you've got the numbers to the water company. The problem I found in my neighborhood is everybody sees what's going on, nobody calls it in. My wife and I call in everything we see, so several times a week we're calling graffiti, cars. We've called in suspected dope houses. We call in what we see. We've called in abandoned cars, suspected stolen cars, whatever. It shouldn't be one person in a neighborhood. It takes, like they say, a village. It takes the entire Temple City. Now, what we need from Area 5 is 2 or 3 of you to volunteer to be area leaders, because the Sheriff's Department has a meeting roughly once a month at the Sheriff's Station where we area leaders get together and discuss what's happening in those areas. If anybody is interested in either being a leader for all of Area 5 or for a block or 2, 2 or 3 houses, whatever it is that you're willing to say, I am going to be the leader to make sure my neighbors participate and call things in. See me, I'll be in the back. One last thing that I'll emphasize, something the sheriff said. A lot of times when you call in, your description may not be particularly perfect. So, if you have a cell phone with a camera, if you have any other kind of camera, any way to make sure that you write down license numbers, anything that makes it easy for the sheriff of the city to track the problem. Similarly, Brian, I'm sure will be talking about code violations. If you see code violations, you can find all the codes on the Temple City website, you see dangerous or really atrociously looking codes, call it in. There are code enforcement people working for the city, and I can guarantee from calls I've made in the last few days, they've been answering those calls within a day or so of me making the calls, and the problems identified have all been corrected. So I'd like to say thank you personally, Brian. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Mark, very much.
People want to see the
Yeah, thank you. And I tell you, Brian and I mean, all the crew with the city, we have a great relationship. We really do. Brian and I worked together for years, and it's great to have that relationship. And he does a lot for the city and for you folks. And just on that note, this whole program, we're just building it up right now. So if you're interested in helping us out, we want your input. We want ideas. Nothing really hard about it at all. Please sign up. Thank you.
And on that note, speaking of input, I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan in a little bit. He's one of our community preservation officers, so he'll talk about the code violations and kind of what we look for in your neighborhoods and to make your neighborhoods a beautiful place to live. I'm going to be walking around passing out an evaluation form. If you guys can fill it out, be brutally honest, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. This is how we are going to make these programs work better. We're in our third to last meeting for this year. And are going to be developing a whole new agenda for the next rounds of meeting beginning January. So we want to hear what the community has to say on what you liked about our presentation, what you didn't like, what you would like to see. And so please fill these out and get them back to us at the end of the night. I'll turn it over to Jonathan.
Good evening, everyone. Like Brian said, my name is Jonathan. I'm one of 3 community preservation officers for the city of Temple City. What I'm here today to speak to you about is our program and our division. And so what we have in store for you tonight is our presentation, case studies, and things of that nature. So let's begin. I'd like to start off with our mission statement. Our mission statement is really going to lay the roadmap for the rest of the presentation. And that being said, the mission is to provide, to promote and maintain safe and desirable living and working conditions. And so we do that by being proactive, and one of our proactive approaches is our FACE program, and that's actually an acronym for Focused Area Systematic Enforcement. And so every month, our supervisor will select a designated area, and all 3 officers will walk various blocks, and we'll look at each house to bring it to the attention of the tenant or the property owner if a violation exists on that property. Now, we do that by these door hangers, and these door hangers look like this. Now, we're not going to go and knock on every door when we're doing our FACE program, and the reason for that is not of being rude, it's for the fact that we're trying to cover a large area very quickly. So we're trying to get a look at every parcel in the city so that we can identify any violation and so that we can give someone the opportunity to correct that violation. So this right here, as it states, it's just a courtesy notice. It's not a citation. It's very informal. It's just bringing that violation to the property owner's attention, and hopefully it gets corrected within an appropriate time frame, usually within 2 weeks. So these are small violations that we're seeing from the sidewalk. Okay, so question, what if the violation persists? After the door hanger, or after we made contact with the property owner or someone in charge, we have a few possibilities to try to remedy whatever or correct the violation. One of them is we open up a formal code enforcement case, and we, it's formal, not informal, it's formal, so we give that individual the proper process, we inform them about the violation, we give them an opportunity to correct it, and we go forward. And so if it still persists, we have the administrative citation process, and that goes from different fines, 100 all the way to 500. So I'm going to back up real quick. What we try to do is really gain voluntary compliance. We try to get that person's property owner, that person who's in charge, sometimes they need more time than 14 days. And so as long as the property owners are putting in a good faith effort to show that they're making improvements, we can grant an extension. So going back to the mission statement, as I stated, it said it was to desirable living and working conditions. So one of these desirable living conditions that we have identified are things such as property maintenance.
things that, grass that has been overgrown, houses that haven't been upkept, there's junk, trash, or debris on them, lack of adequate weather protection that will require paint. So these are things that we can physically see. And these next slides are going to show you case studies that we have done, and they're before and after photos. And just keep in mind as we're going through these photos, think of, would you like to live next to this house? So this violation here is pretty obvious. Hopefully the photo's large enough so we can see. It's overgrown grass, there's weeds, and here's the after effect. So once again, I'll backtrack. Now, do you want to live by this house? Majority of people are going to say no, they want to live homes like this. We're building value in our community. That's what it is. If we maintain properties that look like this, we're not going to have residents that want to move into the city. They're going to want to move into areas like this. So here's another slide. This one, particularly, it's the palm fronds. They're old, they're dead, it is a fire hazard, and they do have to be maintained. You can see that. This photo is very smaller, but on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that it's nicely trimmed. Here, this property has inadequate landscaping. This is the after photo. Once again, we're hoping to build value in the community. People want to move into residences that look like this one. Once again, I've shown you where cases where people have installed sod or they have seeded their landscape, but that's not the only alternative you have or suggestion that you can do to your landscape. This individual on the top left-hand side, there's just no landscape whatsoever, and the property owner installed an alternative landscape, which is a drought-tolerant or a desert-type landscape, if you are cautious of conserving water or things of that nature. This is the parkway of Halifax, and I believe Olive. Yes, that's correct. Halifax and Olive. So, a lot of times individuals, part of our program, they're unaware that they need to maintain certain things. They're unaware that certain violations are a violation of the city's municipal code. And so, with our program, like I said, it's also an outreach program. It educates the residents and informs them that there's violations and we have codes that we need to live by. Because at the end, we're trying to increase the quality of life for everyone. So here's the parkway. Here's the after. Before and after. We do also attempt to tackle smaller violations. This one is trash containers stored in public view. Many times you see calls from our residents saying that their neighbors leave their trash out at the curbside or even sometimes near inside the property, but it's still public view. But they start getting a stench because they open up their kitchen windows and they're going to eat dinner. And guess what comes in? Instead of smelling a nice pot roast, some pizza, lasagna, one of my favorite dishes, they smell what you smell in trash. So that is a violation that we do address. This one we really tackled during our phase program. It's a smaller violation that can be corrected fairly quickly. Now, speaking about speed, most of the time we usually correct the violations within 1 to 14 days, depending on how severe the violation is. Trash containers, if someone leaves them at the curbside, can be easily removed. However, when we're dealing with larger projects, such as in the landscape, at times it can take months. And the reason why it can take months, I don't want you to believe that we're not out there trying to do our job. However, there's due process involved. And due process is a legal term, and it means that you have to give the individual, you have to first inform them of the violation, and then you have to have an opportunity to remedy that violation. And even if you get a parking ticket, it can take 3 or 4 months to adjudicate that citation. If someone appeals it, they contest it, they reschedule for hearing. So keep in mind, some of these violations, though they might be fairly quickly to correct, like this one right here, this happened in February, earlier this month. So it can take time. So just keep in mind to bear with us. We are working to correct the violation, but at times it can take
time to gain voluntary compliance, because that's our main goal. And we want to gain voluntary compliance because we want to work with our residents. We're not trying to go out there and like every property owner, $100, $200, we are aware that the economic times are difficult. And so we try to work with them. Because if we do have to go to court, that means we have to use additional resources that we can be using them for other greater things. Junk, trash, and debris on a property. Once again, you don't want to live on this property or nearby or have a property of this nature because you don't want to move into it. That's the after. Before, this is a bunch of junk and trash and an inoperable vehicle. That's the after.
Is this for real or you staged that? This isn't like this month, huh?
Well, that one, no, these are older. This one was March of 2012. My partner updates them every so often to give you newer cases. You will find these cases highlighted in the city manager report, which comes out bi-weekly, correct? Bi-weekly. And you can see these online, the report's published online, or you can pick one up at City Hall. And we showcase property and homes, and we also showcase the business side, commercial corridors. And once again, the goal is at the end to increase property values, if not minimum, at least maintain them, in addition to increase the quality of life for our residents. That's what we're here for. That's why we're standing here, to show you a good faith effort that we're here tonight, and to at the same time to get your cooperation, because we're only 3 community preservation officers, and there's over 15,000 households, and there's things that have to be non-working hours that we need your help. So, yes, okay.
City mentor report come up twice a month, first and first.
Y'all hear that? No. City manager report? The first and third Friday. If you go online, you can access it online. And you will see highlighted cases every report.
Yeah, if you go on the city's website, you can also, there's a link. We can email you the city manager's report when it's published. And so if you go in there, click on email me the report. Once it's sent out, you'll be added to our distribution list, and it'll be emailed out to you on the first and third Fridays of the month.
It's a great tool to be informed of what's going on, the happenings in the city, things of that nature. But no, this is real. This is here in Temple City, believe it or not. This does exist in this city. Inoperable vehicles, another violation. People tend to, they become project cars. I'm going to work on them in the future, and guess what? That red one actually became like a storage unit. Inside, they store a bunch of material. Obviously, this is not attractive. This possibly can depreciate the value of our homes. Here's a minor violation. It's holiday/temporary lighting, and this was taken back in March of this month. Obviously, the holidays passed in December or whatnot. Now, this might be a small, people might view it as a small violation. However, think what are the purpose of the holiday lights? To be out during the holidays. Okay. But more than that, the purpose, how are they made? They're made for temporary usage. Now, when they're staying outside, they get exposed to the various elements. It's going to deteriorate them. But when you go to plug them in, it can cause a fire safety issue for leaving them out there in the elements, in the rain and the sun, and exposed. Besides, it's not aesthetically pleasing. There's the aspect. So this house right here lacked weather or adequate weather protection, meaning it's exposed to the elements, and if it continues in this condition, the wood is going to dry rot, might get termited, things of that nature. So the paint really acts as a protectant to the elements. So when it rains, doesn't absorb, it beats it. And so this can cost various, anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 depending on the square footage of your house, or if you're doing it on your own. However, just imagine if you had to start repairing the wood. We're gonna start going to sleep. Imagine if you start having to repair the wood. So we're trying to catch the violation, so when you think about it, when you aggregate the cost, it's not as much as you tackle the problem at its initial stage. Here, once again, we have inadequate weather protection. And besides the protection, you also get the aesthetic element. You know, here it's nicely painted. Now, going back to the mission statement, to promote and maintain safe and desirable living and working conditions, here's safety. Green pool, and we really need your help on this one because We can't see them from the public right away. This is a neighbor doing the right thing. I know it might be hard because you might know the neighbor, you might have grown up with them for many years, kids might go to school with them, and that's why we try to be proactive to take that burden away from you, but we still need your help to see this. Yes, exactly, mosquitoes. Exactly. West Nile virus, yeah. Okay, this is a garage conversion. If you look closely at the top left-hand corner photo, you can see the framing. Going back to the purpose, a garage isn't built for habitable space. It's built for storage or to store vehicles. So that being said, it doesn't meet the same requirements that living space does, like a house, such as heating and ventilation elements, things of that nature. So it doesn't meet the same building specs or requirements. So therefore, you cannot convert it to living space. And that is a violation that, once again, it's very difficult for us to see because we drive down and we're unaware, but it's our neighbors. It's the community calls us and they inform us about this violation. Permits. Other common violations that we see as well. Anyone doing work without any permits needs to get a permit first. Now myself, I'm not very handy with tools of that nature, but what the permit helps with is that you get a building inspector going to the work. So if you think about it, if we're hiring a contractor, we're believing that individual to be highly trained and skilled and to accomplish whatever the job is in today's codes. But how do we as consumers know that? Bingo. Building inspector. He's going to come out there, he's going to inspect it, he's going to make sure, he's going to verify the work that individual is doing is up to today's code. Because if things are up to today's code, they possibly cause a shortage for electrical, things of that nature. And then obviously it won't get finalized, it won't be done correctly. And then it came to properties where people did not get the permits, and unfortunately, if it wasn't permissible at the time, you have to remove it. So it's always good to do your research and to verify that the contractor did pull the permit. Interior remodeling, things of that nature require a permit. So the majority of things require a permit. These are the things that do not. More easier for me to just list what do you not need a permit for. A wall or fence, you do not need a permit. You're putting tile, laminate flooring, cabinets, or painting your house. Some cities do require a permit for paint. We do not. If you are installing a wall or a fence, you do have to fit within certain height requirements. We can go into that further, however, if you need more information, just contact the city's planning division and give you more information about that. Other city services. They discussed it earlier about graffiti. We try to get rid of this as quickly as possible so that we can deter the individual who's putting the graffiti up. If they put it up and they remove it right away, it can deter them from to go and put it out there again. So we see it, you can help us out, finding it, you can email it, or the company's great, or you can call us and we can report it as well. Shopping carts, I know we discussed that earlier. That can cause a public nuisance besides the aesthetics of the community. They get, sometimes the wind blows from the middle of the street or whatnot, kids use them as toys.
Would you see somebody or somebody in your neighborhood consistently walking down the street with a shopping cart and doing you report them because they are technically stealing the shopping cart?
So the question is, can you report someone who is in possession of a shopping cart? Yes, like you did mention, it is against the law. The city is currently working. I personally, our staff is working on a containment and retrieval service program. Currently, you have to have it. We're working on this new application to put the responsibility on the business to protect your property and at the same time have that retrieval service.
They're not just doing the fixes as well.
I'm sorry.
Like Walgreens, they try to take 1/3 of my house.
And the statement was example, Walgreens, you walk outside and electronically they have a device that locks the wheels. And those are part of the process to deter the shopping cart from being stolen. So, yes, that's something that you can report. It is against the business code, the state, and also the business code being possession. now that we discussed the community preservation program, how do you contact us? You can do it various ways. You can call us, you can email us, and this information should be in the packet. If not, you're stay here after the meeting. You can come up and we'll give you business cards, things of that nature. We really need your help. We only three of us, close to 4 miles, and some of these violations that I mentioned, we need your assistance. Yes, sir.
Probably it's similar with the situation with the sheriffs also. The question is it an anonymous program? Because I think everybody, the reason people are afraid to make that phone call or send that email is because the neighbor's going to find out, and then all of a sudden you're on their list, so to speak. You know what I mean?
So, isn't it an anonymous program? It is. If we didn't have that ability for you to call in, we wouldn't get a phone call. We wouldn't discourage you, obviously. So, we do have that program where it's unanimous, or anonymous, I'm sorry. And also, like I said earlier, we try to take that burden away from the neighbors. We proactively go out there and we control the neighborhood, and we're actively seeking any violation. And like I said, it's not about orientation, citation, it's just opening dialogue, communication, so that a lot of times people aren't So that concludes my presentation. To move forward, we're going to have other staff members speak, but like I said, we'll have a bunch of staff here, we'll see later, and if you have any personal questions, maybe that you didn't want to provide now, we can actually go.
Before you guys start getting up and leaving on us, Brian just needs a few minutes, I believe, right? Yeah. And I got to apologize because it's entirely my fault that you're here late. So you can come up and sock me in the arm when you're done if you want, whatever you want to do, okay? I promise I won't take you to jail. Yeah, there you go, yeah. Or email me your complaint.
I just wanted to touch base on a couple of projects that the city's going on that I think it's important for the community to know. One of them is our Rosie Boulevard project. I don't know how many of you have been following on what's going on Rosie Boulevard. The entire 2-mile stretch of Rosie Boulevard is receiving safety and beautification enhancements. It's going to be center medians from Kalita down to the railroad track. We're going to have separated bike lanes, new street lights, pedestrian lights, new bus benches, bus shelters actually, even those public art, so there's a lot of work that's going into it. We're currently out to bid for the project, meaning we have our specifications out there and we're asking contractors to submit their bids on what it would cost to build what we want. Rosie Boulevard is moving forward right now. Today actually we're releasing what we call a request for proposals. We're asking consultants to submit design specifications, do the same thing that we're doing on Rosie Boulevard on Las Tunas. So Rosie Boulevard was the first one. Now we're going to be looking at Las Tunas to, again, do safety and beautification enhancements. It could be similar parking stuff as far as parking markings, making what we call parkways, seating areas, cul-de-sacing some streets. It could be center medians. So there's a lot of ideas and designs that we can look at for Las Tunas. And so those are two projects that are going hand in hand. To complement all this work that we're doing on Rosie Boulevard, again, the city has undertaken the traffic calming master plan. We're also doing a downtown parking study and developing a strategic parking plan that will help address some of the needs in the business community where you go to the downtown area and visit a restaurant, the 2-hour parking limit, sometimes there's not enough parking for all-day patrons, the businesses, for their employees, and so we're trying to figure out what's going to work best and how to best serve both the residential community, the shopping community, and the business community to make sure that everybody tries to get the best use of our commercial area. Deputy Baker also mentioned that we have our Safe Routes to School grant that the city applied for, and we're actually successful in this cycle to receive $431,000 to install improvements throughout various schools around the city. Locally here, on Broadway and Cloverleaf, we're going to receive what they call zebra striping crosswalks. It's going to be the crosswalks that are the stripes in the middle, and it's going to be bright yellow, so a lot more visible, which will help with some of the visibility issues walking. Further down Cloverleaf, there's going to be installing some sidewalks and some crosswalks and extending some of the curb ramps, and so that someone walking to school doesn't have to at any part go into the street. So, and it's going to be an ongoing program that we'll be applying for every year that is available. And hopefully we'll continue to get it year to year. A lot of this information is available on the city's website. To complement the safe routes to school, and part of the reason why we're successful is the city has adopted its first ever bicycle master plan. A lot of people want to ride the bikes in the community, but they don't feel that it's safe to do so because there's no protection or there's no separation from the vehicles to where they're riding. Temple City realized that, and our city council, our planning commission, our staff, everybody involved, put together a real good effort and has this adopted bicycle master plan. And Rosemead Boulevard is being our first one that we are implementing. It's actually what they call a separated bike lane. So it's going to be a center median between the moving traffic and the bicyclists. For most of the Rosemead Boulevard where we can allow that. And so we are actively pursuing grant funding to install all these improvements. It's not going to happen overnight, and the city council, everybody's going to be real diligent making sure that we're spending the best dollars of the community and not just wasting it frivolously. So wherever we can find grant funding and use additional funding and maybe get more of our wish list, we're going to do that. Rosemead Boulevard has about 14 grant funding sources. None of it is general fund, so that's a testament to how active city staff and our city council is to trying to make our dollars stretch as much as possible. And then one of the last things that I just want to talk about real quick, some of you may have gotten the flyer, it's the CERT program, the Community Emergency Response Team. That is a program that is, to me, a real good program. It's a program that teaches the average citizen on basic emergency response skills, on how to take care of yourself and not rely on the city or anybody else to come out to your house or do anything in the event of a disaster. Windstorm is a perfect example of that. How many here were without power for a day? 2 days? 3? 5? 7? Okay, but you can see in this room, the majority of the room was without power for at least 5, 6, 7 days. And so, right now you call 911, you get the fire department, police department respond within minutes. In the windstorm or any other disaster, our resources are going to be stretched thin, and we're not going to be able to go out and serve the way we are now. We have a city of about 36,000 residents. We have full-time staff in the city of about 32. And so we're not going to be able to get everywhere to help everybody. So we're going to rely on you to take care of yourselves and do what you need to prepare yourself for that. And the CERT program is a very good program that shows that. It's a federally recognized course. And so if you take the training anywhere in the state of California or in the United States, it's recognized by the FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It is a course that you have to attend all 24 hours of training and you become certified. In Temple City, we're going beyond just the regular CERT training. Right now, you can get the training, go as you will. It's good training to get for yourself and your personal gains. And the idea of CERT is to, again, prepare yourself to be self-sustaining during a disaster. After you take care of yourself, then you start taking your neighborhoods and helping your family and friends. Well, Temple City is taking it to a step further where once you take care of yourself, take care of your family and friends, take care of your neighborhood, we want you to become part of the Temple City team and help the rest of the community. Or if your community and your neighborhood is fine, we want to have a resource that we can deploy volunteers that are trained to go and help in other areas of the town. Again, we don't have full-time staff to do everything, to be everywhere, so we definitely need the help. And this group tonight is a very good group to target for that CERT training because everybody meeting here on a Friday night is already civically engaged and has concerns about the community and the city. So again, commend you all for being here tonight. Great turnout. And so if anybody's interested in the CERT program, I do have a sign-up sheet right now. We do not have any classes running. We're going to try and run classes. We run them either with the sheriff's department or the fire department. So we're kind of subject to what their schedule and availability is. But we're working on to have more city staff working with other cities such as Rosemead to provide that training. So if anybody's interested, I have a sign-up sheet up here. And if anybody wants more questions or has more questions or information, my contact information is on the front of the packet that was handed out today. So again, I thank you all for coming out tonight.
All right, just so everybody knows, Miguel still has food back there, so if you're still hungry, you want to grab something on the way out. Hey, we can't do this without you folks. All right, we need your help, and obviously you care.
CERT
Thank
sign-up sheet
you.
will be up here at the front table.
Thanks for coming out tonight.